Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next Sword Art Online episode review. This one's going to be for Season 1, Episode 9, The Blue-Eyed Demon. This is, of course, continuing on the Part 2 DVD set. In terms of the source material, we continue with Volume 1, Einkrad. And again, this one is fairly straightforward as well, not a whole lot of stuff massively different here compared to what we see in the actual anime, so not really much to comment on in terms of difference between the source material. In general, Sword Art Online is like a really good adaptation of its source material. The only major thing is obviously that because of the way the books are kind of scattered all over the place, especially when it comes to Einkrad stories, not all of them have been animated yet. But anyway, this episode I really like. Obviously, it's probably got most people's what they would consider to be the best action moment in the entire show. That, of course, being the reveal of Kirito's dual wield and what happens from there. And definitely that is a huge highlight of this episode. But in addition to that, you have the fact that you're continuing, Asuna and Kirito team up. They work super well together on screen. But then you also introduce Klein back into things. And you kind of have more of Kirito's friends. The fact that, hey, even though he's been playing solo, he does have friends, people who care about him in the game. And in many ways, that's what this whole episode is about. It's about showing that as much as he can do amazing things on his own, he also has friends who care about him, and he can accomplish more as part of a team as well. Which ultimately, I suppose, is what you would say is Kirito's overall character arc of the show, just getting over these kind of issues he's had and just basically being somewhat of a leader of a, maybe not guild of his own, but a kind of team of his own in the game. And especially in like Alfheim Online and stuff like that, he takes on the role of like raid leader every time they do a mission. So there's that, and you have this kind of other side plot of obviously Korvac and his men, and they don't address right away what exactly is the deal with that, and like they don't explain why they were basically sacrificed, why they were sent there, but it's revealed later on in the Yui episodes actually that it was Kibao, who is basically the leader of the army, effectively, one of the higher-ups. He sent Korvac here to clear the boss because while early on in the game he was obsessed with just making the Town of Beginnings this place where the army takes up. He's kind of become obsessed with taking tax from the players in those towns, and now recently he's been like, oh, we also have to pull our weight with regards to clearing the game, and so he sent out these guys on this basic suicide mission that they don't even attempt to address the whole assault team on the front lines. He just sends out a few people, probably underleveled, underprepared, as we see in this episode, to take on the Floor 74 boss, the Gleam-Eyes, and it doesn't go very well, and thus our capable characters are forced into a position where they either watch from the outside and watch all of these army men die, or they go in and help save them but put their own lives at risk and take on the current floor boss with a less than kind of ready boss team. And that's a really interesting idea for an episode, just that effectively what this boils down to is it's Kirito, Asuna, and Klein. The army guys have done some damage to the boss. Klein's guild, the Furin Kazan guild, have done some damage to the boss, but fundamentally it's our three main characters versus the boss. And it's a really interesting dynamic, just showing you how crazy things are, that the amount of planning that they put into these boss raids has allowed them to basically do so many of them without losing a player. So the reveal at the end that they are the first people we've lost in a boss battle since Floor 67. And then the implication is that even Floor 67 was just a bit of a surprise, and they probably hadn't lost a lot of people up to that point either. So it's a big deal that this boss was tackled without a big giant meeting with the assault team. And I really like that it's Asuna who's kind of the first one to jump into things. And then Kirito jumps in, and then Klein jumps in, and it's addressed at the end that the implication, I suppose, is that Klein was kind of inspired by Kirito, and Kirito was inspired by Asuna to jump in and help these guys, and they saved most of them except Korvat and two of his men, as we find out. Um, but the fight itself, they don't spend too much time. They don't make this a 20-minute just this is a battle scene. Like, we have stuff that happens before the boss fight happens, and we have stuff that happens afterwards. But the actual action is fast paced, to the point, and focuses on what you need to focus on. The the moments just like this. Look, this is the boss about to kill the rest of these army guys. This is how powerful the boss is against, like, say, just Asuna on her own, and just these three people on their own. He's pressured them into a situation where Kirito is going to have to reveal his new skill. And we get that reveal, and it's amazing. The moment, as much as it's probably overhyped in Sword Art Online fandom, is still super strong. The music, the visuals, it just all works perfectly well together. In that, it seems like obvious, like, that in a game of swords, of course, dual wielding would be a thing. But then you kind of look back and like, hey, wait, no characters actually used two weapons at the same time. So this is actually a huge deal. And of course, they do all the classic things that you usually expect from any dual wielder. The cross block with the two swords is amazing, and then just showing the power of this skill when he just like blocks at him and then just kind of like slices them apart, and the boss is sent flying backwards basically. And then, of course, everyone remembers Starburst Stream is the name of the sword skill combo, and it's really cool, some of the moves that he does in the middle of this sequence, like the moment when he kind of lets go of the sword and then like catches them backwards and activates another slice. It's a really strong moment, definitely, and as well as that, they play up in like all of these kind of classic moments when a hero reveals a new skill. Everyone else's reaction is just like, what is he doing? He is on another level to us. And it's not just that the skill defeated the boss, like, he had to go full on like damage per second on this boss, and basically hope that he could put enough damage on the boss before it could put damage on him. And by the end of it, he's down to a sliver of health. He nearly died saving everyone here. And it's just a cool moment when, like, it's all over. They've got out of this situation where basically I think a lot of them had resigned themselves to dying, that realistically they weren't going to beat the boss. But they had to try and save the army guys. And Kirito saved them all, and just that moment when Asuna kind of gets really emotional and just hugs Kirito, she's just happy that he's survived this. It just is another thing that shows how much their relationship has grown. And especially towards the end of the episode when she reveals that she's taking a leave of absence from the guild. And, then she kind of references the idea that they're in a party, and then Kirito suddenly has this realization. It's just this idea that for the first time he's realizing that, oh, this isn't just teaming up with a friend. Our relationship has moved to a point where we are a lot closer than that. And we do very much care about each other. That's why he jumped in after her. That's why she was so happy to see that he survived this battle. It's just a really strong, again, moment for their relationship. It obviously isn't the biggest focus of this episode compared to, say, the previous two, but it's still really well done. And then even just the scenes like before and after of kind of Klein interacting with everyone, just how he interacts with like Asuna, and basically it's just like, look, he probably won't like me saying this, but will you please look after him? He's not great at communicating with people. He's obsessed with battle, but could you please look after him for me? And it's just this nice moment where Asuna just basically meets one of Kirito's kind of friends who basically knows him from before she knew him, and just can. It's just this moment where Klein basically knows that she's the only other player in the game who in any way can protect him, and he can't do it even though he wants to, and he's just kind of happy for Kirito that he's kind of found someone. And that's a really interesting dynamic with Klein and Kirito, in that they don't realistically interact all that much in the game, but you can tell that it's, especially for Klein, it's a relationship that he does care about in the game, and it all comes together very nicely. Even some of the scenes before everything kind of goes crazy, you have yet another scene of Kirito and Asuna eating together, and you can see how they kind of bond over that. That he's grown to just absolutely love her cooking, like to a crazy degree, and obviously we see in like SAO2 that he even likes her real life cooking as well, and it's just pretty fun like that. That food happens to just be this kind of key moment in just where their relationship started and just the key moments in their relationship. But not much else to say really about the episode. It's just a cool moment, I suppose, just this idea that in the events of this episode have unlocked a new floor. The Klein basically leaves saying, I'm going to go activate the warp gate, just that you can just imagine the assault team's reaction to this, that hey, the floor 75 is open. What? We didn't even plan the next boss raid. And it's just this kind of moment where like the news obviously comes out afterwards, and you get the moment where the news is reporting that like Kirito took down the boss on his own with like a 50 hit combo, and suddenly everyone's obsessed with him because of this skill. And as much as Kirito thinks he's known as the Beater, the Black Swordsman, stuff like that, fundamentally what puts him on the map in terms of a player that is well known in the game is this dual wield thing, this moment where he saved everyone and now everyone knows about him. And of course we end with our first introduction to Heathcliff, commander of the Knights of the Blood Oath. And obviously we later find out he is actually Ahihiko Kayaba. And he basically just tells Kirito that if you want to take Asuna away from the guild, you're going to have to duel me for her. And it's interesting in the sense of he is Ahihiko Kayaba. He is not just some random guild master or anything like that. He is the guy who put them in this game. Why does he care that Asuna stays in the guild? And a lot of this links into just some details about why he is in the game. Why he went as far as to participate in all these boss battles and organize basically the most powerful guild in the game. He fundamentally wants the players to progress in the game. So he created this place where all the powerful players could go to, and he made them more powerful. That's why in the boss battles that we see him participate in, the only role he really plays is basically tanking hits. We rarely see him attack the boss, really. So he's basically letting everyone else level up and do all the kind of damage and stuff like that, while kind of protecting some of them. Because if everyone just died on the first boss, he wouldn't have a show. And so that's why he is in this position. It's why he doesn't make every decision. He lets the players basically make a lot of decisions, and he just acts as kind of like a figurehead. And now why he cares about Asuna so much is obviously that in his mind, apart from like Kirito, who's a solo player, Asuna is the most powerful player in the game, and losing her from his guild is basically this idea that he is losing potential entertainment and the potential that the game could get to the end stages, which are going to be the most entertaining for him, lower. And he also uses it as an opportunity to get the most powerful player in the game on his team, especially now that he's aware that Kirito has dual wielding as well. So I think that's a really interesting dynamic, just that we don't learn a lot about Ahihiko Kayaba, his motives for the game, much of his thoughts about what he did during the game, or Heathcliff as a character, even before we know it's Ahihiko Kayaba. But you look back on it with all the reveals, and suddenly a lot of it starts to come together. Like, you understand why he did everything he did. But overall, a really good episode. One of the most memorable scenes in the whole series, for sure, and for good reason. A very strong episode in terms of action, development of romance, return of characters like Klein and stuff like that, and set up going forward that this is the first time in a while we've had episodes that directly link into each other. We've had the team up of Kirito and Asuna, which leads into this boss battle, which leads into the duel next episode, which leads into the Kirito nearly dying, Kuradil coming back into things, which leads into their break, which leads into Yui, which leads into the end of the game. Like from here on out, it's very everything comes together to tell a story, and I like I'm fine with the early parts of this season being kind of like a story here, a story there, but definitely you needed to kind of bring things together, a continuous stream of episodes towards the end, and I think they work very well. But next review will probably be... I'll try and get a review out tomorrow, but it might be Friday before the next one. But yeah, that's been the review. Thanks for watching, and bye.